Pep Guardiola once said if Michael Carrick became the permanent Manchester United manager, he himself would leave football. That joke is looking a lot less funny now, because Carrick is about to get that permanent job, and Guardiola has already had to sit in a press conference and say 4 words that cost him something to say. 4 words from a man who does not hand out compliments carelessly and does not make excuses when his team loses. Manchester United were better. This is the full story of what Michael Carrick has done, what Guardiola has said about him across the years, and where this extraordinary turnaround is heading. Start with Guardiola, because to understand why the Carrick story matters so much right now, you first have to understand how the greatest manager alive actually sees him. This is not new. Guardiola has been speaking about Carrick for years, and his words have been some of the most powerful compliments any manager has ever given a player. The most famous came when Guardiola said simply, "I am a big fan of Michael Carrick. He is one of the best holding midfielders I have ever seen in my life, by far." Read that again. One of the best holding midfielders Guardiola has ever seen, by far. Those last 2 words are the important ones. He is not saying Carrick was decent. He is not saying Carrick was good. He is saying that when he thinks about the best players he has ever watched in that position, Carrick is at the very top, and there is a clear gap between him and the rest. Now consider who Guardiola has managed and studied across his career. Xavi and Sergio Busquets at Barcelona, 2 players many consider the finest midfielders of their generation. David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne at City, 2 decades of watching football at the highest level. For him to single out Carrick as one of the very best holding midfielders he has ever seen is genuinely remarkable. He also called Carrick a Rolls Royce. That description was about more than how smooth Carrick looked on the ball. It was about how he thought about the game, his mental speed, his ability to read situations before they happened, his passing precision that always put the ball exactly where it needed to be at exactly the right moment. Guardiola explained that players who played as central midfielders at the very highest level carry a special understanding of the entire pitch. The defenders behind them, the attackers ahead, the spaces opening and closing all around. They control the rhythm. They manage the distance between the lines. And when those players move into coaching, they bring all of that intelligence with them. That is why Guardiola said Carrick was well positioned to become a top coach. Not politeness, genuine belief that the kind of mind required to be a world-class holding midfielder is the same kind of mind required to build a successful team as a manager. And then the joke. Around October 2024, Guardiola reportedly said, "If Michael Carrick is staying permanently as Manchester United manager, then I am leaving." People laughed. It was funny, but jokes like that carry a little truth inside them. What Guardiola was really saying is that he genuinely believes Carrick has the ability to be a top manager, that United with Carrick in charge could be a real threat. The highest possible compliment hidden inside a smile. Now, the context of what Carrick walked into, because to fully appreciate what he has done, you need to understand exactly what he found in January 2026. Ruben Amorim had come to United with a big reputation, seen as one of the most exciting young managers in Europe, expected to bring a clear modern style to Old Trafford and rebuild the club into something that could challenge at the top again. It did not happen. United finished 15th in the Premier League under Amorim. 15th. 5 places above the relegation zone. For a club with the history, the budget and the expectations of Manchester United, that was nothing short of a disaster. The financial damage was serious. Without European football, the UEFA television money simply was not there. Fewer big matches meant fewer fans in the stadium. Commercial partners were less excited. The club recorded a net loss of £6.6 million in just the first financial quarter of the campaign. The season looked like a write-off. Then Amorim left. Time was short, pressure was enormous. The decision was made to bring in Michael Carrick, interim manager, working at Middlesbrough, someone who had shown enough to suggest he had clear ideas about how football should be played. Nothing could have fully prepared anyone for what happened next. In 14 Premier League matches as interim manager, Carrick led United to 10 wins and 2 draws. Only 2 defeats. That is the kind of form title-challenging teams produce. That is the kind of form that shows a squad completely transformed in confidence, organisation and belief. Under that run of results, United climbed from mid-table disaster all the way to 3rd place. 64 points with 3 games still to play. 3rd place means Champions League football. A complete reversal of everything that had gone wrong. The result that sealed it came in one of the biggest games of the entire season. Manchester United beat Liverpool 3-2. At a time when the title race and the top four race were both at fever pitch, United went to battle with one of their fiercest rivals and came out on top. 3 goals, 3 points, Champions League confirmed. Think about where United were before Carrick arrived. 15th, no European football, losing money, a dressing room without direction, a fan base that had run out of patience. And then look at where they are now. 3rd, Champions League secured, a squad that believes in itself again. Now the Guardiola derby moment, because this is one of the most talked about exchanges of the entire season. Before the January Manchester derby, Guardiola was asked about Carrick's United, what system they were playing, what patterns he had spotted, how City would deal with them. His answer was honest in a way not many managers would be. He admitted he had very little information about how Carrick had set up his team. He said City would have to focus more on their own game rather than trying to specifically counter United. Think about what that means. Pep Guardiola, who prepares for opponents in more detail than almost any other manager in the world, did not know what Carrick was going to do. He could not figure it out. Carrick had created something unpredictable enough that even the most analytical manager in the game had to go in without a clear plan. And after the match, Guardiola said it straight. Manchester United were better. 4 words, no excuses. Guardiola is not someone who makes them. When he says another team was better than his, he means it completely. And he said it about a United team managed by Carrick for only a matter of weeks. He also said that United's way of playing reminded him of the old Sir Alex Ferguson sides. For Guardiola to see echoes of Ferguson in Carrick's United is not a small thing. It is an enormous statement. He was also reported to have been taken aback by how quickly United had changed, surprised by how abruptly the club had shifted direction and how rapidly Carrick had been able to implement a clear and recognisable style. That is high praise from someone who knows better than almost anyone how difficult it is to quickly change the way a football club plays and thinks. The Kobbie Mainoo story lives inside the bigger Carrick story, and it tells you exactly what kind of manager he is. Mainoo is one of the most talented young players in England, 21 years old, through the academy. Senior England international, all the tools to be one of the best midfielders in the Premier League for the next decade. But under Amorim, he was being used inconsistently, in and out of the team, not given the regular game time a player of his quality needs to develop and thrive. The uncertainty created transfer rumours, big ones. Arsenal were reportedly actively exploring the possibility of signing him if he became available in the summer. For a player of his age and potential, that interest from a club like Arsenal was credible and serious. Then Carrick arrived, and from day one, Mainoo was in the team, not rotated, not used occasionally, starting and playing the full 90 minutes week after week. In 14 league matches under Carrick, Mainoo completed the entire game 12 times. The only match he missed was through injury. The result was transformational, his best football of the season, looking confident, energetic, assured, a player who knew his manager, believed in him completely. Then came the news that ended all the transfer rumours. Kobbie Mainoo signed a new long-term contract keeping him at United until 2031. Any talk of Arsenal or anywhere else is completely over. Carrick did not just win football matches, he made a young player fall back in love with his club. He made Mainoo feel valued and central to everything United are building. That is what great management looks like. The Champions League return changes almost everything about the club's situation. UEFA pays each participating club around £16.1 million just for taking part in the league phase. Every win in the competition brings in an additional £1.8 million. As a club goes deeper into the knockout rounds, those payments grow. Commercial sponsors want to be associated with Champions League clubs. Better players want to sign for clubs in the competition. The entire identity of the club is lifted. Contrast that with this season, without any European football at all, losing money, diminished television revenue, lower ticket sales squeezing from every direction. The majority of United's first-team players have contracts with Champions League participation clauses. Reports indicate wages will rise by 25% next season because of this. Bruno Fernandes, for example, is expected to see his weekly wage jump to £250,000. Players like Mainoo and Maguire, who have recently signed new deals with performance-related clauses, benefit directly. Carrick himself was careful about how his players processed the achievement. He told them directly, "The Champions League is one thing, but it is not something we should be over-celebrating. We want to be finishing high up the league and challenging for more points." The moment they achieved one goal, he was already pointing them toward the next one. That is the mindset of a winner. That is the mindset United have been missing. The permanent appointment. Here is where everything stands as of early May 2026. The Guardian, Sky Sports and Fabrizio Romano have all reported that Ineos have reached what is described as a unanimous agreement. The people running the club all believe Carrick should be given the permanent manager role. There is no division, no debate about bringing in someone else, no other candidates being seriously considered. Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada, two of the key figures in United's leadership structure, are both said to be extremely impressed with how Carrick has handled everything since taking over. The dressing room has responded brilliantly. The results have been exceptional. The style of football is clear and effective. The culture around the club has improved. One report framed it in the simplest possible terms. The permanent job is Carrick's to turn down. United are not searching. They are not weighing options. They are waiting for Carrick to say yes. The offer is ready, the contract is prepared, it is entirely in his hands. And why on earth would he say no? He has taken one of the biggest clubs in the world and lifted them out of a crisis. He has secured Champions League football. He has kept a star player who was close to leaving. He has rebuilt the team's confidence. He has earned the public respect of Pep Guardiola. He is at the club he represented as a player for over a decade. Old Trafford is his home. There is something about the Carrick story that goes beyond results and league tables. Throughout his playing career, Carrick was always the one who did not get enough credit. He won trophy after trophy at United. He played in some of the most important matches in the club's recent history. He was the engine that kept everything running smoothly in the middle of the pitch. But he was not the glamorous name. He was not on the front of the magazine. He was the player that other players and other managers quietly pointed to and said, "That is the one who makes it all work." Guardiola saw it clearly enough to call him one of the best holding midfielders he had ever seen in his life, saw it clearly enough to joke that United with Carrick as permanent manager would be such a threat that he himself would walk away from football. And now as a manager, Carrick is doing exactly what he always did as a player. Quietly, effectively, without drama, without big speeches. Just results, just clarity, just a team that knows exactly what it is doing and believes in the person leading it. From 15th to 3rd, from financial loss to Champions League money incoming, from a dressing room losing its best young player to that same player signing until 2031, from a squad without identity to one that just beat Liverpool to confirm European qualification. And the greatest manager in the world sat across the press conference table and said it straight: Manchester United were better. Maybe Pep should start looking up flight schedules because Carrick is not going anywhere. Come on, United.